All right, individuals, workout number 2 for you guys is called lunge and load. So you have 2 exercises. It's gonna be a drop set format. So you're gonna do exercise 1 and exercise 2 at 14 reps to start. Then you're gonna stand up and you're gonna give me walking lunges down and back across your floor. Then it's a drop set from there. So after 14 walking lunges, you do 12 walking lunges, 10 walking lunges, and you keep that pattern until you hit 2 reps of each exercise and then 1 final lap of your walking lunges. So your 2 exercises, exercise 1 is a hex press, exercise 2 is a hang clean. Let's talk about those form cues for those 2 exercises. All right, so our hex press, you're gonna have a set of weights. Your weight is gonna be determined based on your level, okay? So from here, with that hex press, you can start with weights in your hands. You can start with them on your lap, okay? Your counter, your MC is gonna say 3, 2, 1, then you can lay back. As you lay back, you can start with dumbbells extended, but this is not my first rep, okay? You start with them extended, then you go for your first rep. Now, hex press, you're gonna glue those dumbbells together here. They are nice and tight, they stay together, okay? You're gonna drop the head of that dumbbell to your chest, and then you get a full lockout at the top. So, head of that dumbbell to chest, full lockout at the top. You're gonna start with 14 total reps. Once you hit 14, then you can move into your second exercise, which is that hang clean, all right? So 14 reps of my hex press, then I can stand it on up and go for my hang clean. Now, with that hang clean, it is very similar to a skier swing, and then we finish with the head of that dumbbell up to your shoulder. So you're gonna take those weights, let me scoot back so you can see me a little bit better. All right, you're gonna hinge them back, and then you're gonna drive up weights to your shoulders, okay? You have to finish with those dumbbells parallel at the top. So they tap and they get parallel at the top of every rep. So no rep would be here, okay? Not getting that dumbbell parallel. So you gotta drive up to parallel at the top, okay? So you're gonna do 14 of your hex press, 14 of your hang cleans. Then you're gonna go and take a little shakeout with a little walking lunge down and back. With that walking lunge, you're gonna start with those feet behind your first line. So everyone's gonna be starting on the very back line, closest to your wall, okay? So you start with those feet behind that line, and then you can go for those walking lunges. As you walk forward, that back knee must lightly tap the floor, and then you can go right into that next rep, okay? So we're looking for knee to touch the floor and hip extension at the top. So knee taps, I stand, I get full hip extension at the top of every rep, okay? Now, what does that look like to finish at the end? I'm gonna come show you, all right? So pretend I'm doing lots of walking lunges, even more walking lunges, and a few more, all right? I'm gonna finish here on my last line, okay? Now, make sure, guys, one foot has to completely cross over that line, then I can turn around and go. What a no rep would look like is if that foot doesn't cross over that line. So if my foot here, let me move angles real quick. If my foot only comes here for that last lunge, you're gonna go to your lunge, but then you gotta give me one final lunge and then turn around, start behind that line. But if my last lunge, my foot crosses over that line, that is my last lunge. Then I can turn around and then I can start walking back with that lunge, okay? So if that foot touches, you gotta finish one more. If that foot is all the way across, then you are done and you can turn around and lunge back. Same goes for when you're back to your starting position. So 14, walking lunges, and then you drop those reps by 2 every time.